And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show.
106.
What did I say?
206.
2:06?
You're not leaving an hour early.
I'm even in the right time zone, too. And I'm looking right at the clock. What are you going to do? Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
Gavin Newsom is now in the Q&A portion of his attention-grabbing press conference, the Stop Election Rigging Act press conference. But you should be glad to know, John, that in his speech, he was very mindful about what he was doing.
It's not complicated. We're doing this in reaction to a president of the United States that called a sitting governor of the state of Texas and said, find me 5 seats. We're doing it in reaction to that act. We're doing it mindful of our higher angels and better angels. We're doing it mindful that we want to model better behavior, as we've been doing for 15 years in the state of California with our independent redistricting commission.
But we can't do that anymore.
Well, at least he's mindful about it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a columnist and founder of The Recall of District Attorney Chasen Boudin and host of the Really San Francisco podcast. You can get him online at richiegreenberg.org and follow him on X at Greenberg Nation. Richie Greenberg, welcome.
Hello, thanks so much. Thanks for having me today.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. And a former San Francisco mayor, current governor, Gavin Newsom, is on television right now at this rally where he is promoting this ballot initiative that I guess we're going to be voting on in November that would take away the power from the redistricting commission, the independent redistricting commission, and give the power back to the legislature to redraw the lines. Of the understanding that the lines have already been drawn, even though no public hearings have taken place. It certainly looks to me like this is the kickoff rally for his presidential campaign. Your thoughts?
Yes, I agree. Anything that he can do to increase his voter base, to get his to give kudos and thumbs up across the country. But I really think this is going to backfire. I think that there are polls already out that don't show so much support for this. But more than that is that there's going to be opposition to redistricting, to redrawing to the map, and even having this as a ballot measure. I understand that at least one of the gubernatorial candidates, Steve Hilton, I believe, is saying he's going to file suit to block this from getting on to being a special election. Also, I think Schwarzenegger, I saw somewhere, he also is going to be opposing this as well. So this is another example of Newsom doing what he wants rather than what the voters have already done. And 2 examples, this one right here with redistricting, where he's trying to override the will of the California electorate, who we had that initiative every 10 years is when a census is done, and that's when we have an independent commission go ahead and redraw, and that's what we wanted. There was a ballot initiative, and that's what we have. Another example would be, for example, the Prop 36, right? That just passed last year, Prop 36, to redo Prop 47, and Newsom refuses to fund it. So this is showing a very petulant, very dictatorial, autocratic king type of personality, isn't it?
Well, listen to this one. Apparently, Newsom just said that Donald Trump will be running for a 3rd term as president in 2028. Quote, mark my word, these guys are not screwing around. I received in the mail a Trump 2028 hat, end quote.
Yeah, and you also see people with bumper stickers and with T-shirts and hats. Even Trump himself was joking, you can't do that. We know that. We know he cannot run a 3rd term, but you've got the low education voters around the country, around the state, that are going to listen to Newsom and believe everything he says.
It's funny to me that people just send him random gear to his house, including a Trump 2028 hat. Maybe what we can do, Richie, is we can send Gavin's wife a T-shirt that says, "I'm was stupid."
I think you made a mistake there, John. That's not his wife. That's his first partner.
Oh, yes. Well, on Twitter, she's the wife now.
Oh, it changed. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now that he's going national, he's got to win votes in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, in Arkansas. I don't know where. That's so weird. That's crazy. I don't know. I don't know why she would even put up with that. I don't know why she would accept that title as first partner. It's so demeaning. I even asked a lot of people on my account, my Twitter X feed and elsewhere, and it was almost universal condemnation of that kind of demeaning title given to a wife.
Well, if it weren't for Gavin Newsom, the Democrat who is, let's just say, front and center right now nationally is the Democratic nominee for mayor in New York City, Mamdani, who is a self-described and self-declared socialist candidate who believes the government should own the means of production, including when it comes to health care and grocery stores and things of that nature. He is right now leading in the polls to become the next mayor of Gotham. Do you think that he will win that election? And if so, what does that say is in store for the rest of us?
Yeah, so that is a very, very scary proposition that the nation's and, in a sense, the world's financial center could potentially be overrun by not only Mamdani himself, but any of the policies that he wants to implement and that he's running on will destroy city government there. And we see people saying that they're going to leave, they're going to flee, go to a different state. Businesses are already saying that there's a chance that they're going to want to move out as well. It's very problematic. The polls are getting scarier. I just saw another one this morning where it looks like even the betting lines that are out there are showing his win. This is not anything that we should be just taking lightly. I know we're here on the other side of the country, but imagine down in L.A. you had George Gascon. Up here we had Chesa Boudin and how they wrecked the criminal justice system. Now times that by 100 or 1,000, where you have Mamdani able to make the appointments. He as the commander-in-chief of the city of New York gets to appoint the heads of 40 different city agencies and 300 boards and commissions and appoint 9 deputy mayors, where he obviously is going to put into place everyone that aligns with his policies and his rhetoric and what he wants to do to fundamentally cause upheaval in New York City. And that is guaranteed what would happen with criminal justice, with education, with housing, with rent control, with the jails and prison. All of that would be now under his control directly, or the commissioners and agencies that he would appoint the heads to. So this can be, if he won, be a very fast, very quick upheaval and overtaking of the city. And we all really need to be watching this. If you know anybody, if you have any friends, relatives, business associates, this is a tremendous problem. And also, of course, there's the anti-Semitism as well, which we all know about, that he supports the boycott and divestment sanction movement. He will most likely either reappoint or shut down the mayor's office on anti-Semitism, which has been working tirelessly. These stories that we see coming out of New York as well. So this is a really, really big problem. The kind of upheaval that he could wreak on San Francisco is just unbelievable. I'm sorry, on New York.
Well, and you don't have to be Sylvia Browne to figure out what the future will be in New York City, which is he is going to run that city into the ground, and he's not going to acknowledge that his socialist policies failed. he's going to say that the city didn't give him everything of what he wanted, and his true socialism wasn't implemented in New York City because the cops fought him, or the firefighters fought him, or the city council fought him, or whatever interest groups in New York City provide pushback. They're the ones at fault for his policies not working. And what we really need is true socialism, the same way they explain away the failures of the USSR, Cuba, and North Korea.
Yes, and the same defense that George Gascon had. He blamed the Republicans. He blamed everyone else but himself. Same thing up here with Chesa Boudin. Same thing across the bay over in Oakland and Berkeley with the successfully recalled mayor and the Pamela Price, the DA. But there's another difference, though, over in New York City is the majority of the city council. And there they call them boroughs instead of counties, right? So you've got the borough leadership and the city council people there. They're all mostly left wing as well. So you're not going to have so much as the back and forth, the push back to his policies and his proposals, because they're already pretty much in line with him. Also, he gets to appoint several judges, local judges that would most likely agree with him and the changes in criminal justice, right? And you have Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, which is like another Chesa Boudin or a left-wing upheaval-minded, let the criminals out of jail or don't even prosecute them kind of individual there. So it's already in place. The pieces of the puzzle are already in place in New York, and the last piece would be Mamdani.
What do you make of former President Barack Obama embracing the socialist candidate with open arms? I saw on cable a lot of people claim that they were surprised that Obama did that. It seems like they're two peas in a pod to me, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that this is a wake-up call to everyone who voted for Obama years ago, everyone who embraced him and fell for that whole branding and hope and the posters and how could you not vote for him? I think this is a wake-up call if they already haven't learned over the last few years. And the best we can do is just put Obama, put him on a back shelf somewhere, sideline him, and just say, his time had come and went, and we can't keep embracing things that he says. This is another perfect example of why. And unless Obama and his voters and his supporters are just helping to get Mamdani elected based on the similar type of what we saw with Kamala Harris and rooting for the underdog and just trying to get someone in any case at any expense to be able to get someone in to just be the opposite of what we really need and to push back against, let's say, Trump.
If this is where the electorate is, the Democratic primary electorate is in the nation's largest city, I wonder if this is an indication as to where their nomination process is going in terms of candidates who are hostile to Israel. Typically, the Democratic candidate, Biden among them, professes their public support for Israel. I wonder if Biden and Harris will be the last ones to do that.
It is possible. I mean, we've got other upcoming elections over the next local, state, and federal before 2028 and onwards. We've got New York. We've got, unfortunately, there's a significant percentage of voters there that do support Mamdani, and that is shocking. We know that there are many anti-Zionist Jews that are around the country, and that's what's guiding this as well. So it's not just the candidates; it's also how the view towards Israel and anti or pro-Zionists have evolved over the years, and it's most likely the younger generations that have these feelings of negativity towards Israel.
And last question before you go. San Francisco did not go in the socialist direction the last time they had a mayoral election. Mayor Lurie ran as a business-friendly Democrat. As someone who follows San Francisco politics very closely, what do you make of his tenure as mayor so far?
So far, he's been in a little over half a year now, and the jury is still out on this. We've got good and not so good. We've got the attitude, the feeling, the sentiment across the city here is much more positive. A lot of the crime and homelessness has gone down. The polls show that he is a bit more popular now. He's polling in the 70 percentile. But then again, we look at the source of the poll, and it's one of the more left-leaning. It's the Chronicle, in fact, that did this poll. But when you walk around the city, when you walk around the financial district, the downtown area, the businesses, the offices, the cafes that cater to those office workers, it's like a ghost town. So it has not come back. And then you have the revelation a couple of weeks ago that Mayor Lurie spent $350,000 out of his own pocket because he's fairly wealthy. He spent his own money to hire PR firms to do the best marketing that you could do to infiltrate the narrative and push that San Francisco is back. San Francisco is on the rise, when maybe it is in a couple of different aspects and sectors, but there is still crime. There is still rampant 24-hour a day drug markets. You could go and get whatever drugs you're looking for in certain parts of the city. And that's the problem as well, that it has not changed with the homelessness and drug addiction. There's plenty of video, plenty of photographs that are coming out on a daily basis that show it is still there. And the media and Mayor Lurie are pretty much ignoring that. And that's the problem, because it is still almost $16 billion operating budget, annual budget the city has, and that is really hamstringing us here. And it's not making a difference with the worst of the crime and the homelessness and drug addiction.
Richie Greenberg, columnist, founder of The Recall of District Attorney Chesa Boudin, and host of the Really San Francisco podcast. You can get him online at richiegreenberg.org and follow him on X at Greenberg Nation. Richie Greenberg, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you. My pleasure, John. Have a great day.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to keep listening after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
Must be a glutton for punishment, but sure, you do you. Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. I don't want to listen to 5 hours of me, but if you do, great.
All through COVID-19, there was an eviction moratorium in the city of Los Angeles that, Randy, went really beyond the pandemic.
I think it ended in February of 2023.
And, of course, if you had a squatter that set up shop on your property and you called the cops and said, hey, someone broke into my house, it's time to get rid of them, the city made you go to a judge and evict them as if they were a tenant. It's virtually impossible to get someone out of one of your properties if they're not paying you rent or they're not supposed to be there. And with all of the problems going on right now in the city of Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass believes the most pressing problem at the moment is that it's too easy to evict people.
Well, Karen Bass likes to put out the mythology that evictions are what causes the homeless numbers to rise. I'd like you all to remember that eviction moratorium was in effect from 2020 to 2023, where nobody was allowed to be evicted, yet the homeless numbers skyrocketed.
And now she's setting up a new office, the Office of Eviction protection.
For more, here's NBC4.
Now at 5:30, there is new help for those facing eviction in South L.A.
Don't pay your rent, we'll pay it for you.
Just stay as long as you want.
It's a center focused on keeping renters in the home. The center is focused on helping those renters negotiate with their landlords.
Yeah, NBC4's Coda Nolan.
I know that you said the rent is $3,000, but would you take $800?
And if you don't, the mayor's going to be really, really mad.
Yeah, NBC4's Coda Nolan live at a newsroom. And Coda, sometimes it's as simple as overcoming a language barrier or lack of access to technology, huh?
Right, and it's pretty fundamental to the effort at solving the homeless crisis, stopping the flow of people who end up without a place to live.
That's not usually who's on the streets.
No, people are on the streets because they fried their brains on drugs.
It's a program that you might call an effort at preventative medicine. For the mayor of Los Angeles, it's a win.
Over just the last 2 months, the office has served more than 1,000 Angelenos who were at risk of eviction, helping them fight and stay in their homes. Just imagine that. That's 1,000.
It's 1,000 landlords that got screwed over.
In what sane world right now do people believe that the state of California is too landlord-friendly? And because the state is so landlord-friendly, tenants who are just down on their luck are getting the short end of the stick?
Well, if you follow the logic of the talking points from people like the DSA, that housing is a human right, well, that means housing should be free.
No, this is a woman, and I mentioned this yesterday, who was socialized into politics through Fidel Castro. And because she looked like a businesswoman, because she wears suits, because she'd been in Congress, because she'd been the Speaker of the Assembly, people assume, okay, well, that's part of her history, and she dropped all of those whack job beliefs. Nope, it's the same woman. She is a political radical.
Helping them fight and stay in their homes. Just imagine that. That's 1,000 people who could have been on our streets.
Mayor Karen Bass.
So you're telling me those 1,000 people wouldn't have had a friend's couch to crash on, or, I don't know, move in with family, or move somewhere cheaper if they can't afford to be in Los Angeles?
No, you're dealing with people who have alienated everyone in their social network, and usually they do that through drugs.
Mayor Karen Bass on the We Are LA program, now with an office on Crenshaw Boulevard in South LA, offering free legal services and housing-related help to those fearing eviction, such as the case for Serene Nunez, a small business owner, and muralist Trinelli Garcia.
Muralist? That's not a job.
So wait, so legal help means she's helping them become litigious.
Yes.
What she's doing is facilitating deadbeat renters at lawyering up and preventing their landlord from evicting them. Because even if you can't convince a judge that you're in the right, the rent is due, you don't pay it, you got to go at a certain point. What lawyers can do in circumstances like that is they can drag the process out and delay things. And a friend of mine who's a judge told me it can take over a year to successfully evict someone if they play the game the right way. And if you're talking to an attorney, the attorney will help you play the game.
Well, and typically the way this ends is instead of being tied up in court for a year, the attorneys will negotiate a settlement where the landlord will agree to forgive most of that rent.
This is unreal.
This is L.A.
As the money wore down and...
By the way, the new fun way to listen to this show is for all of our listeners up on KSFO. L.A. is so much worse than San Francisco ever was in every single way. Oakland, it's about even. But L.A. is so much worse in every possible category than San Francisco.
And we just keep doubling down on stupid.
As the money wore down and things got bleak, I was asking God, like, how are we going to work this out? And then that's when I learned about the Mayor's Fund.
Thanks to the Mayor's Fund,
the Mayor's Fund, John. You remember the Mayor's Fund, started by Eric Garcetti, that was used for a whole bunch of weird, crooked donations, including $5 million from the Qatari government?
Yeah, what was that about?
Money laundering. That's exactly what that was. If you needed a favor from the mayor, you donate to the mayor's fund.
I've been told that by many people, that Qatar is the country where you launder money. And anytime you see that name pop up on any sheet, to be specific, or be suspicious, rather.
Were they the ones that gave Trump that plane?
They were.
Thanks to the Mayor's Fund, We Are LA program, I was able to negotiate with my landlord and stay in my home.
That means that you negotiated to not pay your rent.
Right. So landlords who took it in the teeth all through COVID just took it in the teeth again.
And typically what happens here is the mom and pop landlord, they don't have the funds to lawyer up, so they just have to settle. But they're usually not taking BlackRock to court because BlackRock and all of these massive corporate landlords, they'll fight these things till the end of the earth.
No, you think Donald Sterling is going to do anything for these people?
And then what happens, as we saw throughout COVID, thanks to the eviction moratorium, is the mom and pops say, screw you guys, I'm a-going home, and they sell their buildings to BlackRock.
She's just as bad as that socialist in New York City, Mamdani. She just has better branding.
The program is funded by the Mayor's Fund for Los Angeles, a nonprofit started by then-Mayor Eric Garcetti and continued by Bass. The fund's We Are LA program doesn't supply money for rent, but does help tenants negotiate with landlords.
So the landlords that are owed months, sometimes years of back rent, they're not getting it through this program.
Nope. They have to take pennies on the dollar.
President of the fund, Conway Collis, is an attorney who has a long history in anti-poverty programs.
How much is he making in this program?
Yeah, I'd like to know that answer.
Has a long history in anti-poverty.
By the way, fun fact, John, do you remember which important official in the Eric Garcetti administration was in charge of the Mayor's Fund and was the spokesperson for the Mayor's Fund?
Wasn't that Rick Jacobs?
Why, yes, it was.
He's the guy that got kicked out for sexual harassment for grabbing too many people in the crotch.
Yes.
Has a long history in anti-poverty programs. He says it works because it helps both tenants and landlords.
But how does it help the landlords?
The bullet train is a success. There is no crime in Los Angeles. The homeless problem is getting better. MacArthur Park is a beautiful place.
So what we've tried to structure is something that's a win-win for both, that it assures landlords that, look, this is stable.
I don't know how if it's a win-win for both if they owe you money and you say, no, you don't have to pay them.
Well, and if you're dealing with people who are stiffing the landlords on the rent, they're probably not paying taxes either. The landlords are paying taxes. They're paying for the city government to function. They're paying for these attorneys to help these deadbeat tenants not pay their rent or settle for something less.
Well, and Johnny, finish that thought. What happens to the mom and pop landlord that because nobody's paying their rent, they can't afford to pay their property taxes?
Oh, then you're in trouble with the government. And if you can't afford the note on your house, if you can't afford to pay your house payment, the bank comes and takes it.
Assures landlords that, look, this is a stable tenant. They can...
No, they can't pay their rent.
A stable tenant is his definition for someone who's not paying their bills.
And how exactly are they going to be able to pay those bills going forward?
Pay moving forward, and to the extent possible to see if there's anything that can be worked out on back rent.
But the program itself is an indication of the chronic lack of affordability in LA's housing market. Housing construction.
And this is going to make it less affordable.
Because they're going to have to make it up somewhere else. If you are a landlord and you own a number of properties and you have one particular property that has someone that doesn't pay the rent, but the mayor is assisting that deadbeat tenant in staying in as long as possible, and you know you just have to accept some fraction of what you're owed, and you have two other properties, you're going to have to increase the rent on those other two properties to make up for what you're losing on the other one, because you have your bills to pay.
Housing construction plummeted in the first quarter of the year, and while there has been a recovery of sorts in the second quarter, problems persist. Joshua Baum is the founding partner of Hillgard Economics out of West Hollywood.
Wait, the economist is named Bum?
Well, sometimes your name is your destiny.
Out of West Hollywood.
We have interest rates. We have local zoning barriers, tariff threats, immigration changes. Homes won't get proposed or built if there isn't certainty that there is a workforce to build those homes.
That's a reference to the estimate that 40% of construction workers are undocumented immigrants.
That's an issue.
Well, I mean, they've just about hit every single subject they can in this story.
Well, and if you want to know why, if that number is true, if you want to know why it's true, it's because the state has put forth so many regulations that you have to hire the most sweetheart deal union contracts to do construction. So many projects are paying people under the table.
This is what happens when you regulate people to death.
Keep in mind that, yes, supply and demand plays a big role. In Austin, they studied the rents there. Some 50,000 units were built over the course of 2 years. Rents went down 22%.
And that is true. But also at the same time, what is true is a lot of Californians moved to Austin during COVID and then spent 2 summers there and said, screw this, I'll pay whatever it costs, I'm moving back.
It's hot here.
Texas summers are awful.
An average of about $400 to $500 per unit. I'm Conan Nolan, NBC4 News.
So there's that.
All right. If you're a landlord and you want to weigh in on this, give us a call at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Cheryl in Modesto. Cheryl, hello.
Hello. I'm here.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah. I had the tenant from hell. It cost me over $7,000. I had a very small RV, a very nice RV. I never rented anything before, and he got in there and he wouldn't get out, and he knew every law how to get around, and I had to go to court 7 times, and I had to get a criminal attorney also. Yeah. It was hell.
I'm sure it was just something that was completely exhausting for you and just a nightmare that would never end.
Well, you're exactly right. And everything you guys just said, I've been stewing on this. This happened in 2020, March 2020. The minute the pandemic hit, well, a few minutes after the pandemic hit, and 2 days after the moratorium went into effect, the guy just figures like he's going to stop paying rent. So I unplugged his utility extension cord, which is a big no-no, which I learned later on. And then that's why I had to get a criminal attorney there. And he just stayed there for year after year. He poisoned several of my cats. It was beyond belief. And there was nothing I could do to it was horrible. It was beyond. The guy was a very sick individual, and he was recommended to me to be the nicest guy, and that he was on hard times. Yeah, but it was horrible.
What was his job? What did he do?
Everything you said is true. The landlords get screwed over and over and over, and I can't imagine ever renting to anybody in the rest of my life ever. Yeah.
What job did he have?
He said he worked at Amazon, but who knows? I don't know.
All right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Mark in Altadena. Mark, hello.
Yeah, good afternoon. So I was getting ready to evict a tenant that was several months in arrears, but and she was going to fight me in court and drag it out and all that. But my manager captured her on video in the middle of a drug deal. And the drug dealer was complaining to the manager about, hey, she's got the weed, I get the money. What's so difficult to understand? You can't go on about how she's got the weed, he gets the money. And I thought, well, I got some similarities with the drug dealer. She gets the apartment, I get the money. What is so difficult? And so I only ask 3 things of my tenants: pay the rent on time, don't bother the tenant, don't bother the neighbors, and don't damage the property. If you can do those 3 things, you can live in my apartment building forever. Now, I didn't rent to this lady. I rented to her mom, which was okay, but she started sticking the other tenant in another building, and she moved in with him and left the deadbeat daughter not paying the rent. So, but it all worked out. For once in my 40 years as landlord, I got off pretty cheap on this one.
You know, Mark, you could really write a country song about all that.
Countries, yeah, but that's made 3 things, and they can't do it. Pay it on time. Don't bother the neighbor. Don't damage the property. You can live with me forever, and they don't do it.
I know that buying property and accumulating as much as possible is the way to get rich. That's how Dr. Jerry West bought the Lakers. That's how Donald Sterling bought the Clippers. But it just seems like 1,000,001 different headaches, and I don't want any part of it. Thank you for the call, Sarah.